About the Melbourne Airport third runway proposal and how that's rolling out. I understand that the airport's 2013 master plan lays out the third runway proposition amongst many other plans for the airport. So in particular, what I want to know specifically is there going to be a new environmental impact statement for that aspect of the airport carried out?
Senator, if I might, I'll start, and then Ms Horrocks might add some more detail. In regards to the additional runway, you're correct. It is in the master plan, in the approved master plan. It has been on the airport's master planning documents for some considerable time. They have now selected the orientation of the runway. They are currently in the process of developing their major development plan. So the documents associated with the actual construction of the runway for the Minister's consideration. As part of that process, that document will incorporate the environmental impacts of the construction of the runway and will go out for consultation. I'm advised that that document, including a full detailed environmental assessment, will go out at some time later this year with the expectation of a document to be considered by the Minister for his approval in the second quarter of 2017.
So will the environmental assessment included in that major development plan be as detailed as it would be in a full environmental impact statement and have
Yes.
the same criteria and the same processes for being assessed?
It's done under the EPBC processes, Senator.
Okay, so all right. So essentially, what you're saying is there will be a new environmental impact statement included as part of that major development plan. Okay, good. So the residents will be pleased to know that. Last estimates we discussed the interplay between Avalon and Melbourne airports, and your advice was that Avalon and Melbourne were operating in different markets. And you referred to the Melbourne Airport Master Plan as the guide to that. But there's I'm wondering about the way that the Aviation White Paper of 2009 lays it out. Is that relevant?
With all due respect, Senator, I actually don't recall what the words in the Aviation White Paper of 2009 reference between the two airports. So I can't honestly answer the question.
I'll help you out. That the 2009 Aviation White Paper said that Avalon Airport largely serves the same market as Melbourne Airport and will be treated as part of the greater Melbourne market.
That's correct, Senator.
Yes, so that is, you still concur with that statement?
As it's written, yes, Senator.
So I'm interested then in terms of the assessment of the additional runway at Melbourne, how the infrastructure at Avalon will be taken into account as part of that, given that they're largely serving the same market, in terms of the need for that third runway and, in particular.
Senator, whilst they serve the same market, they're competing airports, and in terms of Melbourne Airport's operating capacity, it is getting to the point where it believes and warrants additional capacity. So in that sense, the capacity that is available at Avalon won't, I don't believe, without having seen the document, but won't, I believe, be referenced in the Melbourne Airport third runway major development plan.
So even though they're serving the same market, it doesn't seem right if you've got these two airports serving the same market, meeting capacity.
They are
seem to be very relevant to me.
But they are competing entities, Senator. They compete within the same marketplace.
But in terms of the need for a third runway, they may compete, but they are both providing capacity.
I think
Coles and Woolworths serve the same market, Senator, and they compete in the market, and it's a decision for them as to whether...
They're not infrastructure that's been, major city-shaping infrastructure.
Actually, I don't see how it's not. I mean, they're both commercial operations, and they'll make decisions as to whether they need additional infrastructure. Melbourne Airport's quite clearly made a decision as that it wants additional infrastructure, and so it's proceeding down that track.
With respect, I mean, the government clearly has got a role in regulation of whether we need to have major airport expansion, whether you've got competing airports or not. So I can't see why extra capacity at Avalon isn't being taken into account when considering the need for extra capacity at Melbourne Airport.
Well, Senator, if I might, Avalon, while it serves the broader Geelong and part of the Melbourne market, Avalon in itself is a limited facility, single runway, very limited terminal and apron facilities.
And there is clearly demand for access to Melbourne Airport.
That may be the case. It may be that when you look at this capacity, you say there's clearly the need for it. But what I'm questioning is whether that capacity at Avalon will be taken into account in terms of the assessment.
Well, it's certainly when you look at the growth of Melbourne. I mean, if you look at the projections for the growth of Melbourne, Melbourne will need additional runways at Tullamarine as well as Avalon. If you look at, say, the Brisbane and Greater Brisbane area, Brisbane is now completing its parallel runway. At the same time, you've had expansions of the Gold Coast and Sunshine Coast. That just simply reflects the growth of operations.
Mr Murdoch, you're making an assessment to say that, yes, there's the need for this extra capacity. My question is whether that assessment of the broader capacity of both, including Avalon, will be considered as part of the assessment in terms of the need for a third runway.
I would have to check in terms of the regulations and the requirements that are in place, but I don't believe, and as I said, I'll take it on notice, but I don't believe that there is a regulatory requirement for Melbourne Airport in the development of its major development plan to have to take into account capacity offered by another airport. As I said,
even in the same market.
Even in the same market. As I said, I will check, but I don't believe.
Having said that, Senator, as you're aware, in any environmental impact statement, you do look at options and alternates, and that is the opportunity then to look at. Melbourne Airport will have to look at how it sits vis-a-vis the total market as part of any options assessment as part of an EIS.
Well, can we have a commitment for that to occur on behalf of the residents who are
that'll be
tonight?
depend on the guidelines for the EIS at the time, but normally you do look at options assessments as part of an environmental impact statement.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Could well be that real estate's worth more than landing aircraft. Thank you.